Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Firestarter from 1984. So, this, of course, is another Stephen King book movie that adapted into an actual film, and I'm here today to talk about that. So, it seems that this Firestarter movie is to come through psychic abilities and so on and so forth. And we, of course, find out that Charlie's powers to be pyrokinesis, where she has the ability to kind of create flame out of nowhere and then goes on to be able to use it as a weapon of some sorts. Once we kind of see in the later film, she ends up kind of coming up with these like kind of random fireballs or flame balls that we kind of see being used to take down a number of people in the later part of the film. So we go on into this movie and we also find out that Charlie has parents. And supposedly we find out that Andrew is to also, who is Charlie's father, also have this kind of psychic ability where he kind of keeps going and like kind of pressing his head with his two hands and controlling people, kind of pushing them. So a lot of people will immediately compare this movie to possibly the Chris Evans movie Push, or a lot of people go on to compare this movie possibly to Scanners in some ways. But we really focus on the pyrokinesis part of it, and at some point, I think Firestarter was eventually to be put out as a sci-fi movie, and so I guess it's also getting rebooted to go on and be another current release thing. Hence why I'm kind of interested in seeing what this story was about. Because I was like, okay, never remember ever seeing this film, so it's kind of interesting to finally get into it. So we go on into this story, and we of course have two family members on the run, father and daughter, because of course they are to be running away from the government that is of course trying to seize them, because of course they have psychic abilities. So we really just have that being most of the film, but then we end up having them being tested and controlled and all these kinds of things the further and further we go along in this. I know that there was an Elliot Page video game that, of course, has some kind of psychic ties to a kind of thing like this, but that is to kind of be that Elliot Page's character is to kind of speak to ghosts, and we have at one point where William Dafoe is to kind of be like this girl's like surrogate father, because this girl is kind of bouncing and back and forth through a number of different foster homes, and she really didn't have an actual family. So, but anyways, let's just go on and go into Firestarter. Let's go and just go into spoilers. Like, I would say that this movie is really good. It's conveniently on HBO Max right now for however long, I'm not quite sure. More than likely, it's probably going to be a staple probably on HBO Max, especially closer and closer that this movie is to be released. So everyone can probably see the original as well as go on and see what the new product is, which I'm hoping is drastically different. Because if not, then it's like, what was even the point? What was even the point? Like, I hope there's some kind of at least, like, updated thing that kind of makes his story tweakingly look different somehow or another. Like, I hope it's not the exact same, but I get it. Like, you can't drastically change a story. But I would like for there to have it not be exactly like the original. That would kind of suck. So, anyways, let's go on in that double 5 time territory. Let's just go into this thing called spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this movie. But yeah, I thought this was really interesting. It kind of reminded me of the Chris Evans movie Push. Because this is like my first ever watching, so first time watching everybody. I why? Anyways, so spoilers. So we go in the beginning of this film, and I would like to kind of focus on the flashbacky stuff. So we have both Andrew and we have both Vicky that are to, of course, be uh, put on to go through this trial of this supposedly painkiller, hallucinogenic drug of sorts. And so we have a Dr. Joseph Wallace, or Wanless, who goes on and is to tell these guys, it's like, well, hey, we're going to give you lot 6, and this place that they are at is called the shop, weirdly. Kind of a very sketchy seems kind of very like sketchy what all is going on here, but it seems that they have picked up both Heather Locklear's character and David Keith's character at the right time because they are supposedly broke and they desperately need money. So we have these characters and we have them being tested on, and some people are supposedly getting a placebo, and some people are actually getting this drug that is going to make them get this something or another kind of ability. So we go on and immediately have Andrew that's talking to Vicky, and it seems that she has some like once they inject these people, it seems that she has the ability to read Andrew's thoughts. And so we go on because we have Vicky that's kind of appreciative of Andrew, just saying like, oh, thank you for complimenting me on my hair. And Andrew's like, what? Like, I didn't say anything. And she's like, well, you just went on and you just told me that like my hair looks like copper and this and that. And Andrew's like, well, I didn't say it, but I thought it. So we just go on and figure out that Vicky is to be able to like talk to someone through their own brain, kind of read their thoughts and vice versa. Like as if she's almost like Xavier at some points. And we have Andrew that I guess is to have this ability when he touches his head like this a lot. He goes on and he has the ability to control people, to force them to do something. So I think it's kind of funny when Andrew first gets injected because he's going on and asking, it's like, well, hey, like, are we going to shrink? And this doctor is just like, shrink? Like, no, you're not going to shrink. So all of a sudden we end up finding out that one of the test subjects have this like crazy side effect that all of a sudden is like, everybody get out of here. Like, this guy's having this crazy side effect. It feels like his skin is like coming off of him or something. It looks weird, or it looks like he's probably like clawed through his body or something. Some weird wild side effect. So we have that kind of haunting image kind of flashing back and forth. So we go on. We further go into this story and have Andrew and Vicky years later, who have gone on to have a child named Charlie. I guess it seems you would have thought at some point that these people would have just tried to come for both Vicky and Andrew, like, or not have left these people like off on their own. Like, this seems like a risk. Plus, if we were gonna find out that they had like superpowers, no one would ever want like a superhero person to just kind of escape. It doesn't work that way. But I guess it works conveniently for this story. Like, someone would have had to have escaped. Anytime anybody's to do some lavish experiments on somebody, yeah, like it isn't just so easy that they just slip through the hands and like people just forget and whatever. But so we of course have it where Andrew is to like touch his head and control people, and so now, excuse me, he's turning around and wanting to have Charlie learn how to use her powers for the good. Basically, meaning for Charlie to control her abilities and for her to kind of rein this in so that way she can go on and use this without hurting people because Charlie could probably have this power go on by accident. Kind of interesting because every single time we have Charlie use her powers, who is of course Drew Barrymore, we have this character going on and her hair starts to kind of just flow in the wind. I'm like, oh my god, watch out everybody, she's going to use her powers because her hair is blowing in the wind. Every single time, watch out for that. That's a telltale sign she's going to use her power. Weirdly, because there's always a fan right underneath her as she's going to use her power. I don't have hair, so there isn't much to roam around here. But yeah, so we have Charlie. Every time she uses her power, she goes on and is to like her hair is blowing in the wind weirdly, to where all like the posters and everything that they have for this looks just really weird. With kind of Charlie with her hair just kind of everywhere. You would have thought like how we do for the remake for Firestarter, like to make her hair look better, like it's been like photoshopped or whatever. Um, whereas like whereas like Drew Barrymore's through bulk of this movie just kind of looks like she's been electrified through half of the film. But that's not her fault. That's just the way that like, hey, they're just having a fan that's around this girl, and there's like nothing for her to do besides that to look that way. So you would have thought they would have found like a better thumbnail by now, but no, it's just they can't for whatever reason. Or a better poster that they can put onto this movie, but it's just like meow, like it's like a crazy cat hair syndrome. It's weird. So Charlie goes on and is to try and burn a thing of toast, and we have this toast that is to catch a blaze, and so Andrew is to douse it out into the sink, and so all of a sudden Charlie is kind of losing control of her powers, and all of a sudden we have Vicky's hands that has these like mittens on that are starting to burst into flame. Vicky goes on and douses her hands into the sink, and it seems that the flames are gone. So we go on and we have Charlie, who's desperately trying to apologize to her mother because she couldn't control it. So we of course go on and have the government, I guess, who is to just kind of finally take the time to remember, oh yeah, you know those guys that we did this experiment on? Yeah, we should probably go and wrangle them up. Because, like, we don't have them, like, prominently showing any of these, like, powers, but I guess maybe at some point, maybe something slipped up from somebody and somebody's powers got revealed. And so I guess since they were attached to that project, I would have liked for there to have been some kind of continuation from that story where it's like, oh yeah, like we coincidentally have upgraded this thing, and so now we can technically have a villain that goes up against like Charlie in this film, because we technically have someone who has gone on to be more powerful or equally as powerful as Charlie. Um, like as if they like experimented more after the fact, but I guess that's just me. So we have it at one point where it seems that Andrew is to go home one day to realize, like, hey, why isn't anybody here? All of a sudden, Andrew starts thumbing through the house, and all of a sudden, it's realized that Vicky is sadly dead. He finds her in some closet somewhere, and she's dead. What, did she, like, blow out her power or something? Or of reading a person's thoughts, because that's all she could do? Andrew finds Vicky and is like, oh, inconsolable. You would have thought he would have been like Hugh Jackman Wolverine. No! Anyways, so Andrew realizes that Charlie is not here. So Andrew starts calling all of Charlie's friends to see if, of course, Charlie had came over at some of their neighbors, and I guess luckily she had. So we have Andrew going and picking Charlie up, and so both Andrew and Charlie are now on the run. So we have it where Andrew is using his hair touching power to get coins from out of this this paying machine. You would have thought that maybe he would have been able to like he would have used possibly his power to find an ATM somewhere and just like pop, 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 like break the ATM. Probably in the updated version, that's probably what they'll do. They'll probably have like an ATM where like Andrew just uses his power. He's like, give me that money. So, because we don't have a phone booth like readily available in of course 2022, which of course is when exactly this is being done. So, and eventually we'll go on. Maybe there's going to be some weird and wild connection to the Firestarter movie that has something to do with Drew Barrymore. Wouldn't that be nice? Just a cool connection. So Andrew gets all these coins from this phone booth, and we have Charlie who's listening in on this conversation where we have this military guy who's talking to this woman. I'm not quite sure what their argument is exactly about, because it sounds like this woman is pregnant, and she thought this kind of military guy would want to take care of her with this child. And this military guy is like, no, I like, you've probably been sleeping around with a number of other men. Like, come on, like. It feels like this guy wanted to like wham bam, thinking, "Man, I'm getting out of here." But because it sounds like that's what the argument or disagreement is about, but I don't feel like in the dialogue somewhere they like say baby or they say whatever. It just feels like they are just kind of arguing about this woman not being taken care of by this man, and so you have to kind of assess that there's a baby that had happened through how they're talking. So all of a sudden we have Charlie with her hair blowing power. I have no hair blowing, so here we go. With her hair blowing power, I got nothing. We go on and we have Charlie who's to use her ability and go on and start this guy's feet on fire, to all of a sudden have it be that he is running into this bathroom as he started a number of things on fire. And we have this police officer who's like, "Come with me," and the officer is like, "Well, do you want to have me like douse out my feet before we go?" So we have this guy go on, I guess, get arrested for his arson that technically he has gone and done, but it's not his fault. So we have Andrew trying to rein Charlie in, trying to stop her from further on using her power. because at some point we have it to where on the villain side of things, we of course have Captain Hollister, who is to possibly think at some point in this movie that this girl, who of course to be Charlie, is to maybe even at some point have the ability to break Earth in half. That seems like something like. Why would Charlie want to go that far to break the Earth in half? Did they also realize that Charlie is also going to be on this planet called Earth? Just. That's my thought process. Wouldn't that just completely just destroy Earth as we know it anyways? I don't know. But yeah, that just seems like a lot to ask for. Plus, like, we have it to where there's like so many different levels and cores of the Earth and stuff like that. So, like, good luck with that. Hence why you would go on and watch movies like The Core and find out how many several different layers of the Earth there are. So, I'm sure once you get further and dig down deeper into the world of Earth, you'll find out that there's probably dinosaurs and who knows what the heck else is if you watch goofy movies at some point. Like the center of the Earth, the journey to the center of the Earth. Dinosaurs and all kind of craziness. I doubt it. Anyways, so pushing on. So Andrew and Charlie run off to try to go on and sneak away from the government, who is ever getting so much closer to going and finding where both Andrew and Charlie are. Because it feels like there's no way for them to easily just get away from these military people. They're always just a step behind somehow or another. So both Andrew and Charlie are just kind of like they're walking. They're walking away from this airport because both Andrew and Charlie had got into a taxi, and Andrew had used his hair touching power to go on and give this guy a $1 bill and make him think that it's a $500 bill. A $500 bill. And so Andrew is telling this guy, go to the airport and we'll give you this $500 bill. So this guy's like, $500? Yeah. And so he's driving. So, because the taxi driver was saying like, hey, I can't drive you to the airport. That's too far. So they get to the airport, and I would have immediately had that guy figure out like, dude, you only have like a $1 bill. Like, you didn't get that $500 bill. You didn't get that $500 bill. You would have thought, like, nowadays they would probably go on and do something with, like, credit cards or, it is what it is. Man, I'd like to just see the updated version of this film, just to kind of see how drastically different it is, or if maybe it's not even better than the original. So, I bet in the remake, I put money on it that it's probably the mother that's still alive and the dad is dead. I bet that's what happens in the remake. How much you want to bet there's going to be that slight tweak? Because I just have that feeling weirdly. So Andrew and Charlie are going on, and they're at this bridge. They're jumping over the bridge because Charlie is having this kind of this sixth sense that weirdly these men are to make their way to get to them. So both Andrew and Charlie are going on and jumping over the rail of this bridge, and we have them kind of stumble and fumble down. So we go and we have both Andrew and we have both Charlie that's going on, and they're trying to hitchhike their way. As if this is the end of an incredible Hulk episode. And the Hulk is just kind of like, ah, this sucks. So Andrew and Charlie are to just continue to walk on and try to figure out how they can get from point A to point B, and eventually we have both Charlie and we have both Andrew who go and meet a guy named Irv Manders. And so we have Andrew going on and saying this, like, well, hey, like, I got a really good idea. I think we can go on, both of us, and make it to like my grandpa or my grandfather's like little home. Just kind of make it in there and hope for the best, because maybe Andrew just had that kind of like that house like stored away for a rainy day and nobody really knows about it. But it seems that even that is not going to be hidden enough from the government. So Andrew and Charlie are to both meet up with Merv, and at first they kind of tell him this story that it seems that they're going to have both Charlie and Andrew are going to have both different names, and they're saying that I guess Andrew's wife is to be in labor with their second child, and when you know it, like they just didn't have enough for travel. And Irv is like, oh, okay, all right, like, all right, like, so Irv goes on and he's trying to be nice, but he can whiff a lie, I guess. He can just kind of, maybe he has his own power. Maybe he was there. We don't know. He could have been in another side of things, and he was just like, hey, man, give me them drugs. Give me some of that Lot 6. So we have Irv going and telling Andrew and Charlie, it's like, well, hey, like, it seems like both of you are hungry. How about you go on and you just have a meal with us, me and my wife? And Andrew's like, wow, that's very nice of you. Like, I'm getting weird flashbacks of the Wolverine origin movie. You want to take my son's back? Here's my son's jacket. It looks pretty good on you. Like, I'm just getting weird Wolverine origin flashbacks. And where like Logan is to break the sink. Like, I'm gonna fix it. Yeah, sure you will. I'll just go and get the plumber, and you'll just pony up the dough, because I'm sure you have it with no clothes on. So, moving on. So, Irv goes with these two people into this home, and Norma's just like, okay, like, bringing in strangers to our house. Hopefully they don't have rage powers. Hopefully they're not superhuman people that could kill us. Irv, yeah. So we have them eat, and then Norma and Charlie are going off to kind of go after these roosters and kind of like play with them and feed them. And so Andrew finally goes and comes clean to Irv. It's like, well, hey, like, yeah, you guys were so nice to us. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth. So, and Andrew tells them like the whole truth, that it's like, well, hey, like, we both have abilities and the government is after us, and hopefully you can help us in some way with your deer gun. Yeah, that deer gun is going to come in huge handy. If you had a cannon, that would be better. If you had a big, massive arsenal, like in the Tremors movie, where we just had the one guy who had a whole entire wall of guns, that would probably work out a little bit better. So we have it where, of course, Charlie is to psychically know that the government is coming. And in my brain, I'm like, you know what? If Charlie could sense this, why is it that in the later part of the movie, Charlie can't sense things in the later half of this film? Like, you would think that she'd be able to sense who a bad guy or a good guy is. Like, you can't tell me that all of a sudden, like, we can just say it's like, oh, well, she was drugged. How? When did she ever, like, on camera, eat or drink anything that seemed to be drugged somehow? And drugged specifically, maybe the video games drugged her. It was the TV screen. It drugged her while she was playing those video games. Ah, I tell ya. It know that power. So, the government is weirdly coming because it knows all. It knows everything. I would have loved for there to have some kind of breadcrumb like thing going on here, leading to them. Like instead of like the government just knows, or I would have liked for there to be this kind of Logan thing where we have somebody who can track people. Then I would be like, aha, this makes sense. Where he kind of had the one guy with mutant power being able to track people and being able to track down both Logan and Xavier and the kid. Like, I think that I don't know why you have to compare this so frequently uh, with really just X-Men, but it's easier. Mutant abilities, people coming after them consistently, no matter where they are. But again, if we have to kind of continue to poke holes through this movie, we also have to kind of technically continue to poke holes through Wolverine Origins, technically. Because it's kind of the same thing. How is it that the government knew where Wolverine was unless he had like a tracker somewhere in his body and he found that out years later? Not quite sure. Maybe they could track Animanium. Boom, that solves that answer. They can track large quantities of adamantium, and that's how they could figure out in that movie. But in this movie, I guess they can't track psychic abilities. That's a little different. So hopefully they clear that up in the remake. So the government is to make it right to the doorstep of this of Irv's and Norma's house, and so we have immediately Irv that's like, hey, like it's kind of wrong that the government is trying to go on and do this to you guys. Like, hey, I want to help you out, and like we have Norma like, seriously, you can't do that. And like Irv is just like, well, yeah, like what do you want me to be? Like some kind of Nazi and not do the right thing here? Like, come on. Like it feels kind of like that's what the government is kind of doing to them. So like let's try to do the right thing here for these people. It's not their fault that they are to just be uh like having people that hate and fear them. Another X-Men reference. So so we go on, and these guys appear, and so this is kind of like the Wolverine Pyro standoff, where of course we have the cops who was like guns in front of Iceman's house, and we have Wolverine that ends up going down because he has a bullet in his head, and then Pyro is to go on and use his power and take a lot of these cars down. It's almost the exact same kind of sequence, and I just realized that now. Man, X-Men, you steal a lot from the Firestarter movie. What a blatant ripoff that you go on and you just... It's a joke. So, but it is really the same. I think they stole. They heavily stole. Yeah. So, all of a sudden we have Andrew and we have Charlie that make it outside this house. And we, of course, have it where Andrew's not going to use his power, his hair touching power. We go on and instead have Charlie, who is using her power, and she's just going to have men continue to just burst into flame. And Andrew is just saying like, hey, use all your power, use all of it, just take all these guys down, to scare them away. And so all these guys are like bursting into flame, but really they just kind of burst into flame through their through their arms, their forearms, and like, ah, my God, I'm on fire, I'm fire, fire. So now we have it where hair is blowing in the wind, and we of course have Charlie, who's like, I'm gonna use my power, blowing up cars and all kinds of things. I'm like, shouldn't you have left one of those cars to just still be there so Andrew and Charlie could easily have a getaway vehicle? But conveniently, we have it to Irv, who's telling both Andrew and Charlie, like, hey, go on and take my Jeep so you can get out of here. And Norma's like, yeah, please just go and take the Jeep so you can get out of here with your mutant power. Because I hate and fear you. Why is he continuing to reference X-Men? We do know that this is a Stephen King book, right? He does realize that this is not X-Men, right? Or Legion or anything of Marvel. Does he realize that? Yes, I do realize it, but it's still funny to continue to say it. So, Andrew and Charlie are to go into this Jeep and are to make their way to this grandfather's house, which looks kind of like, in the inside of it looks like a cabin, but like, I don't know, it looks like a normal house, I guess, but to me it seems like a cabin. I don't know. So we now go on and of course have it where we have Rainbird, who is going to go on and have to seek out both Andrew and Charlie, because it seems like Captain Hollister is to be talking with the doctor, who is kind of talking about uh, this procedure that he had gone on and done with these people with Lot 6, and he's kind of having second thoughts about all this. And we go on and have Rainbird, who's to go and chop him right in between the nose or the face or the some, and like kills a man with a chop to the face. What the fuck? Please tell me somebody is gonna go on and do that exact same thing in the remake. Please keep that in. Kill somebody with a freaking chop to the face. Hilarious. I thought that was just straight up ridiculous, but I'm wondering if there's like a legitimate thing where you can go and kill a man by chopping him in the face somehow. That would just be freaking like, if there is a real thing where you can do that, I would just be like in awe of that. If there was a legit thing, chop a man to death. Oh my God, you would just have to be worried, like freaking karate chops be coming in and murdering people. So we have Rainwater, who kills this doctor and then is to go on and get to Andrew and Charlie. He has this kind of this sniper gun, as I have to kind of position my hand as if I have a sniper gun weirdly. This rifle that like is like a million miles away from where, like, this is a big huge rifle. It's, you can't even see. We have this guy filling this gun with these tranquilizer darts. I'm like, you would have thought he would have gotten a weapon that could have held more than just one tranquilizer dart, because we have these people with psychic abilities, and I would not be messing around. But I guess it is what it is with this film. So we have Andrew and Charlie that are kind of fishing, and all of a sudden, like, they're having a really good day. They're just kind of walk away, because we have both Andrew and Charlie that naturally assume that everything's going to be all okay, that that there isn't going to be a possible government official trying to get them anytime soon, because it seems that Charlie is not sensed that there is one coming. So Rainbird goes on and is to tranquilize Dart Charlie, and she falls over. If Andrew that goes on, he's like, "You tranquilized daughter, my daughter. How could you come and face me, you coward?" Yeah, have this guy come out of the forest and face him man to man so he can hair touch. You'll die. Kill yourself. Do something while I'm touching my hair. And then we'll have Rainbird, who just was like, we already had, because Andrew went on and used his hair touching power, his push power. Let's call it what it is. His push power to save Charlie from these two government agents, while these two government agents were grabbing this girl and running off with her. And we had this neighbor that's saying, "Is Charlie gonna be all right?" And Andrew was like, "Yeah, she's gonna be fine. Just go back in your house and forget all that this has happened. But hey, like, also realize that your freaking part of your face is bleeding, and you're just gonna need to figure out why the heck that is." Because you won't know why. Maybe you'll think that you fell somehow. Andrew should have came up with that backstory of how this girl had blood on her face. Because if she doesn't remember that, she's going to be really weirded out when she all of a sudden finds out she has blood on her face for whatever goofy reason. So now we have both Andrew and we have Charlie, who are back at this grandfather's place, and they are now both tranquilized. And the government guys are kind of wearing these like fireproof outfits because they figured it out. It's kind of like Magneto when they use those plastic bullets. They've learned. X-Men reference number 34. So it seems like that we've kind of quickly gone on to easily have them being caught by the government. And so now we just weirdly have both Andrew and both Charlie in these weird, goofy looking rooms that at every point you kind of think that you're seeing a window or you're seeing a door, but instead you're seeing this like metal door right next to it. And I'm like, so what is the point of doing all this kind of flashy looking what is the point of like kind of decorating this up? Like, just make it look like a metal room, and like, I don't know, just it looks weird. So we have Charlie and Andrew separated because we now have to give them some kind of incentive to use their powers, to say like, hey, if you use your power, I'll let you go and see your daughter. Oh, if you use your power, I'll let you see your dad. So that's kind of an incentive, which both of these characters need to realize that neither one of them are going to be able to see one another. But Charlie, out of the two of them, are technically very naive because she's young. So it seems like they're trying to figure out a way to manipulate Charlie, and I think that's kind of a bullshit thing. Like, I don't like that at all, where it's like you're manipulating a young child, and I don't like that part of the story. I think they should have edited that out. I think they should have got rid of it. That whole child manipulation thing, no. So, because we have Rainwater, I've been watching too much Yellowstone, Rainbird, that goes on and talks to Captain Hollister, who of course is Martin Sheen in this film. And Rainbird wants Hollister to give him the child after Hollister is technically done with this girl and showcasing that there's proof that this girl has these abilities, for them to probably sell this on the black market to get everybody to eventually be changed forever. I don't know. To where you can go on and find the next person who can break the world in half with their bare hands. I'm going to use my psychic ability to break the earth in half. No, don't do it now. That'll show you a lesson. You would have thought that's really what Charlie should have done by the end of this movie. She'd be like, I'll show you, I'll break the earth in half. That should have been the escalation of the end of the movie. To just be like, yeah, there's going to be a real war. It's called breaking the earth in half. Maybe, wait a minute. Maybe Charlie could just, and, you know, she could just immediately just snap and, like, half of the world is just on fire. And killed. Wouldn't that just, like, break people's brains if we just had Charlie with a snap? Half the world is on fire. That would have been cool. We should have had that. But the thing that also doesn't make sense to me is Andrew is saying by the end of this movie that there's a war brewing. And that these people need to know that they can't just go on and do this to their kind. And all this rigmarole. I'm like, what kind is there? Like, we really just have Charlie, and that's it. Like, it doesn't seem like we have, like, an X-Men Origins movie where we're kind of finding, like, oh, here's Cyclops, here's Emma Stone, here's 55 other people that are still having this power. So how exactly is there going to be a war? A war of one person, like, against many, I guess? Like, as if this is, like, Akira style going on here? Like, we have Akira going on? Which it's been a while since I've seen that, and I'm kind of wondering if I did review that or not somewhere on this channel. Akira is really good. And I forgot about referencing that. Because Akira is also one of those kind of like Superman-like stories, which really gets really visually interesting the further we go on. If I haven't reviewed that somewhere, I think I might go on and re-review that at some point. Because it feels like a Superman-esque like story that kind of gets really cool, where you have one character who starts to really use this power to just take out the world, because why not? And people are starting to really realize that. But anyways, so pushing back to this story. So we go on, we have Rainbird, who is to disguise himself as some janitorial cleaning person to continue to talk to Charlie and convince her, hey, yeah, like, I'm your friend and I have fears. I'm afraid of the dark. As we have one scenario where Charlie is all of a sudden realizing that there's, like, heavy thunder and raining and whatever. Wasn't there, like, at the top of this roof, wasn't there some, like, opening somewhere of some window that you could tell that there's, like, thunder or lightning going on? Or was that just not me? So we have Charlie that's seeing rainwater, just afraid of the dark. He's like, oh no, like, my card won't work to get out of this door. Oh, I'm so afraid. Oh, I'm such afraid of the dark because I went on and I fought in Vietnam with a number of people, and a number of people ran one way and I ran the other, and I fought against King Kong. No, he just fought against Kong, and so like the enemy, and so. And for some odd reason, they made him afraid of the dark for some odd reason. So we have like Charlie that's trying to like just be like, well, yeah, like afraid of the dark kind of thing is like a common like kid fear. So we have it to where like we have Charlie and Rainbird that are trying to like face this together. So we seem to have Rainbird that that is to kind of face his fear just in the nick of time, and all of a sudden the lights come on and he can leave. He's like, oh, thank God, hug, I'm going to get out of here. So more and more we have Rainbird who is kind of working with Charlie so much so that he's kind of giving her little rewards instead of going and seeing her father. He's going and taking her, hey, you want to go to this horse stable? Do you want to see all these horses? Like, hey, go on and use your power to just kind of give him a little bit, just give him a taste. So then they'll go on and want to give your father back to you. And so Charlie is to be manipulated to going on using her power, as she is to set ablaze some wood chips. And she's like, wood chips? Like, they should have gave me something better than that. So Charlie uses her hair blowing power to go on. Hair touching, hair blowing. Like father, like daughter. They're both doing something with their hair. It's weird. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is. I don't know where it is. So Charlie goes on and is to flame on these wood chips. And all of a sudden we have the guy that's in the room with her that's like, I'm getting out of here. I'm freaking gone. And so Charlie goes on and is starting to lose control of her power, and she bursts this tub of water in flames. And we, of course, have Captain Holster's like, did you see that? Oh my god! We now have proof she has psychic powers. It's like, yeah, I don't know if they're really going to 100% concretely trust this, like, because you haven't seen from kind of ground zero where this person was given injections and then X amount of hours later they were tested for psychic ability. And so there has to be some kind of like when you have a Guinness Book of World Records kind of guy, like we have like that, like a bunch of red tape where it's going on and like, okay, like this can't just be some normal world record, because how long did you actually build this thing, blah 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 blah. So there has to be a whole like thing about it. So we have Charlie that uses her power consistently to the point of her flaming bricks and breaking them up. And so we get to the point where Charlie is just so frustrated that she hasn't seen her father by now that she's like, well, I'm going to do something if you guys don't go on and give me my father. So now let's showcase the Andrew side of things. Andrew's going on and is to be heavily medicated to where it seems that he can't use his power. And we have Andrew that's kind of faking taking this medication, and he's like spitting it out or putting it in some sink somewhere or some tub or some toilet somewhere. So it seems that he's taking these pills, but he's actually not. So we have Andrew that goes on to finally be able to kind of see if he can use his power, and he changed the channel on the TV. He's like, I'm back in business. Because we have Captain Hollister that wants Andrew to use his power, but Andrew is telling Captain Hollister, it's like, well, hey, like, you have me drugged up. Like, I can't use my power if I'm drugged. like I'm stoned half the time, so how am I going to be able to use my power? So Andrew goes on and talks to Captain Hollister and is to finally use his ability to control Captain Hollister to be able to have him kind of help get his daughter back. So now we have Andrew that's controlling Captain Hollister to tell him to get somebody to get to this stable so Andrew can meet back up with his daughter and then run off. So we of course have it where Andrew wants to deliver like some kind of note somehow to Charlie, just kind of telling like, hey, like I'm gonna try and help you and so on. So we so we go on and have Charlie find out what's going on, and so this one officer is saying like, hey, I guess you wanted a late night kind of time at the stables, and Charlie's like, well, yeah, because I want to ride a horse late at night. And this officer is like, okay, sure. Like, I guess Captain Hollister is to agree with this, yada, yada, yada. So we eventually have it where this agent is to bring Charlie to this horse stable. It seems that Rainbird is to know what's going on, and so he follows Charlie to the stable, and he has his gun out. He's like, what's going to happen here? How is this all going to play out? Excuse me. Because we immediately have Rainbird that's thinking that he's going to kill this girl or he's going to kill Andrew eventually with his hand chopping power of just like, let me chop your freaking hand so you can, or head so you can die. So we have these characters like getting back together. Andrew is hugging Charlie like, oh yeah, this feels so great. And so now there's the gun kind of looming because Charlie is telling Andrew like, hey, like, and also John is here, the janitor that was trying to help us out. And Andrew was informed by Hollister that this guy is working with him, and he was to tranquilize Dart them before. Andrew's like, oh, John, hey? Yeah, this guy isn't John. So what ends up playing out here is we, of course, have Captain Hollister that tries to shoot Rainbird, and Captain Hollister gets killed. We then go on and have Rainbird that kills Andrew, and he ends up getting shot in the neck, and he falls over. He's like, oh, I'm dying. So all of a sudden, Charlie is to use her power, and she, of course, is to push Rainbird off of where he was to have him fall down, and then she bursts Rainbird into flames. And Rainbird was telling Charlie, it's like, well, hey, you don't want to burn up the stable, right? There's so many horses that you have to go on and protect. And so Rainwater was using that against her. But then Charlie figures out how to rescue all the horses, and so we have Charlie who's at her father's deathbed, and so we have Andrew that's telling Charlie, it's like, well, hey, like, don't let anybody else hurt anyone like us. Like, go on and like have this, like, this means war. Like me dying here, this means war. Go after them and burn this place to the ground so no one else will be captured here like you and I. So Charlie goes on, rescues all the horses, and then is going on a rampage and like fireballing everybody. Like all of a sudden these just fireballs just come out of nowhere and they're setting people ablaze, and Charlie's just continuing to just walk on and just take everybody out and kill everybody. And it's really cool, just to see this carnage. But I would have liked to have seen more, that we would have found out like, oh my god, there's a number of people like her, and then we would have just had them kind of all circle around and just all use their powers to. That would have been sweet. That would have been cool. Um, you know what actually would be really interesting, if this was somehow technically like a sequel? And wouldn't it be interesting if we had like a cameo at the end where we had like Drew Barrymore? That, of course, was to be like the Firestarter from the original film, and she comes back and she's like helping out. That would be cool. Like as a little ending thing where we find a bunch of other like girls that have the same power, or we could bring back like there was a made for TV movie. Like we could kind of like have everything just be in continuity to where everybody goes back and finds all those things. It's like, oh my god, this is cool that this exists. Uh, that would be great. Just have this like brief thing. We don't have to show how it's all continuity or whatever. We just have to say that these characters are all there, and it would just be kind of a cool like tip of the hat to all that stuff that came before, because you can just easily have all these characters in this film and it not be that it's like, oh well, we have to figure out how this all ties together. No, just say that they're there, they have some kind of power, and that's all you need to do. um, but anyways, uh, I liked this movie. I like the kind of the psychic power thing. It's kind of weird where I haven't actually reviewed Scanners upon this channel. I've seen the movie before, but I've never actually reviewed it. So maybe on someday I might get two Scanners at some point. But I don't think that's one of those where Scanners is really popular right now, because I've kind of used that in some kind of tag or some kind of something on some place, and just Scanners is not evidently popular right now. So that's too bad. So it's just like I could do it for fun, but it would just be a waste. Um, so with that said, I think I'm going to get out of here so I can go on to do another review. So goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.